Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into college basketball at Division III schools for women's basketball. My guest today is Karin Harvey. She is the women's basketball coach at Montclair State University, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to college at Concordia College in Ann Arbor. I'm from Michigan originally.
Wow, yeah. Fantastic. So before we get into what you're doing, let's go back into high school. And when did it all start that you knew that you wanted to go to college? Was it freshman year, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
I think, basketball was kind of my favorite thing, and academics maybe not so much. So for me, basketball was my avenue to get to college, and that's kind of what my motivation, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I was, if you saw me standing up, I'm not particularly athletic, but I was a very good shooter. So I was sixth man on my high school team,
wow.
Sixth man in college, and spent a lot of time sitting next to the basketball coach.
Really?
And that's where I kind of looked about my love for coaching and learned about the game of basketball. And I knew in high school that this is what I wanted to do as my career.
So you go on to college. Tell us a little bit about the college that you went to and what was the atmosphere like?
It was Concordia College is a small private NAI school. So it wasn't NCAA, but it gave me, got a little scholarship and probably 1,000 students, and I majors in exercise science, and my exercise science professor was my college basketball coach, and it was just this, small environment and really tight-knit and just a great place to go to college.
Wow. So how does one go from graduating college to Montclair State University?
Right. Yeah, my story is a little interesting as far as a very windy path. And I actually at Montclair State, I speak in a freshman seminar class and tell my story.
Wow.
Because I really didn't graduate college until I was 27.
Wow.
I took when I was going into my senior year of college, my dad got sick, and so I left school to help take care of him. And then it took me about 6 years to get back and graduate.
Wow.
Life takes some crazy turns.
Sure.
And then once I graduated, I always knew I wanted to leave Michigan and kind of come out to the East Coast. And I got out to the East Coast for a summer on the Cape, and met some students from Smith College who told me about this graduate program, which was exercise science and sports studies. And ended up getting into Smith and got my graduate degree from there.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I started, and the plan was you graduate, you go on a bunch of interviews, you get a job. It didn't exactly go like that. I graduated, went on a bunch of interviews, did not get a job right away. So I ended up taking a high school job down in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
I lived down there for about 4 years. And while I was there, I went to Women's Basketball Coaches Association convention, and a friend of a friend met a bunch of people, and that was in March. And in May, one of the people that I met was just named the head coach at Montclair State.
Wow.
And she was looking for an assistant, and so this was kind of my opportunity. I was pretty established in DC by then. I owned a home and I had a full-time job and all this, and she called me, she said, I know this is a long shot, but you said you wanted to get into college coaching. I have an assistant position for $2,000.
Whoa.
So it was a lot, and that's kind of what I talked to the college students about. It's a little bit of a leap of faith for sure.
Sure.
And so I sold my house, I left my full-time job, and I took the job at Montclair State for $2,000, and I was an assistant there for 2 years. I ended up doing a bunch of things at the university, coaching volleyball and coaching lacrosse and coaching basketball. And then I got my first opportunity to be a head coach at Drew University.
Wow.
Yeah, so I coached at Drew for 1 year, and then my head coach at Montclair State went Division I, and they called me to come back, and
wow.
I've been at Montclair State ever since.
Wow, fantastic. So let's get into the Montclair State University women's basketball.
Yeah.
How do you go about looking for students to come to school at Montclair State University?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know a lot of coaches have been on your show and they've talked about the recruiting process, and it's changed somewhat over the years, but still basically the same. I think the first thing that we do is try to find, good students and good people that are a good fit for our university. Montclair State is the second largest university in New Jersey to Rutgers. We have about 20,000 students.
Wow.
We have 275 majors and minors. We're made up of 7 colleges now, so it's a large university. But we have small class size. So I think, we look for students who are kind of looking for the best of both worlds. The opportunity to go to a large university that has a lot of resources, a lot of programs, a lot of colleges, but also want the small college feel because our class size is so small. So that's kind of where we start with that, and then we're looking for players that fit our program, athletically speaking, and we run a 5-out motion, and we shoot the 3, and luckily, we have some post players, but the back to the basket post player, as you know, is a sort of a dying position. Yeah. So we look for swing players that can step out, shoot the 3, and that's kind of how we go about it.
So now, do you recruit just in New Jersey where you are, or do you recruit all over the country?
I've had a lot of
kids?
Yeah, I've had a lot of success coaching, recruiting regionally. So Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland. So I would say we recruit regionally. There's been a few changes with some of the admission standards. So this last couple of years, we've sort of switched gears a little bit more New Jersey, but we certainly love the out-of-state. We attract kids from Long Island and Staten Island, and I have a player from Connecticut. Actually, I have a player from Mississippi, freshman from Mississippi this year on my roster. She had a connection to the area.
That's how you find them.
That's how we find them.
Now, grade-wise, what are the type of grades that these students have when they come to Montclair?
Yeah, I think the standard is we're looking for a 3.0 or better. Montclair State does a good job of giving out some merit money for students that have better grades than that. 3.5 and above, you have an opportunity to get some merit money. Our tuition is still one of the lowest. We're right around $13,000 for $14,000 for tuition. So, your merit scholarship could be somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000. And over the course of 4 years, it covers a full year of tuition. So, if you're a good student, and we are SAT optional, like most institutions are going now, so you don't have to worry about your test scores. And then, obviously, we use the FAFSA, financial aid, federal government, because we're a state institution, to decide. But Division III, no scholarship, so it's based on your family's income and your grades.
Now, when students come to Montclair State, what can they expect when they get to the school? Give me a whole year's worth. Do the students come in July, August of their freshman year? Do they come in September? When does it all start and when does it end? How does it all work?
Sure. From a college basketball standpoint, or just as a student from college basketball? So they've been arriving to campus late August. Right now, we're starting a little bit earlier. We start before Labor Day this year. And as soon as they get onto campus, we have our first basketball meeting. Everyone can kind of meet each other if they haven't already. Usually they have by then. And we start with our strength and conditioning coaches and captains practices or voluntary practices.
Okay.
And then this year, the NCAA changed the rule. So we've always been allowed in Division III to have a 19-week schedule starting in October 15th. But they just changed to days. So now they give us 114 days, and we're allowed 8 days with coaches' contact before October 15th.
Wow.
So that's a new rule this year, and that's been fantastic for our student athletes. So we've been able to practice a couple times a week since the middle of September.
Wow.
With them. So tomorrow will be like our 6th sort of team practice. And we're trying to do it a little differently. We certainly don't want them to be in season for 7 months.
Sure.
But it's a nice opportunity for us to touch base with them and, maybe teach some of our offense and teach some fundamental things and kind of get them slowly acclimated to what practice might be like.
Sure.
so that October 15th isn't total shell shock.
So now is that the start of the season then, October 15th?
October 15th, yeah. For Division 3, October 15th is the date. And we go October 15th to mid-March, hopefully.
Wow.
You know, if you're competing in the NCAA tournament, you'll be going through mid-March. You know, they get a couple days off for Thanksgiving. Usually they get 8 or 9 days off for Christmas. So it's a little bit different than Division 2, Division 3. You know, you do have some time to go home.
Right.
But we practice 6 days a week. Typically, you have Sunday off, because that's what we shoot for anyway. You know, 2 hours a day for practice, and then you have your strength and conditioning.
And how many games are they playing throughout the season?
We're allowed to play a 25-game schedule and 2 scrimmages. So that's what
okay.
we
So
do.
now you end up in March, and you're in the NCAA tournament. You can play up to, what, 5, 6 games?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then once March ends, what happens from April until next August?
Yeah. So when our season ends, we usually give them 3 or 4 weeks off just to, you know, rest and be college students, and then we come back and we do about 3 to 4 weeks of strength and conditioning. You know, just a little reminder that they're college basketball students, get them back into it, and then we send them home with a summer workout program with our strength and conditioning coaches.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of what their full year looks like.
So now, how about outside the school? Do you find kids doing like AAU basketball, or do they play in summer leagues of some sort? Is it just high school basketball that you're looking for these students?
Recruits?
Yeah.
Yeah, typically it's both. It's high school basketball and it's AAU. Obviously a lot of AAU. You know, so we're going to tournaments they keep changing the live periods, but right now there's 1 in April, 1 in May, 2 in July. So those time periods we're really at AAU, and then there's always littler, smaller ones. And then we get, you know, students that reach out to us and we respond, we watch their game film. Right now we're going to open gyms, high school open gyms are big at this time of year.
Sure.
And we're, you know, hopefully if we've finished up all of our regular visits, and then we might have students back on campus for a day visit so they can go to class, have lunch with the team, maybe see a workout, get a little more acclimated with the college and what their experience might be like.
So now, the type of student that comes for women's basketball at a Division III school is way different than one that goes to a Division I school. What do you see as the differences between those women that go from Division I to Division III? Is there a big difference?
Athletically speaking would probably be the difference. You know, the speed, agility, quickness, height could be, a big factor. So there can be. I mean, it really depends on the level. Or if we're talking UConn, yes, huge difference. You know, if we're talking a smaller Division I school, like maybe FDU, not that big of a difference. You know, I just had Nikki Carter was one of my great players that just graduated. She was an All-American, and she had a 5th year because of COVID. And she just got a scholarship to go play her 5th year at FDU, Division I institution.
Wow.
So the level is not that different. You know, and if you look at some of the other, you know, the big time Division I or Division III schools like Amherst and Scranton and some of them, those players could have played at Division I and they chose to play at Division III. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is players that could have the opportunity to play at Division I. Mm-hmm. And I've had a couple of them on my team. Melissa, Toby, Katie Sire, both of them had opportunities to get Division I scholarships and chose to play at the Division III level.
Now, is it because Division I gives just athletic scholarships, Division III doesn't? Is that one of the reasons that a lot of students do that? That's
certainly one of the reasons, and that's also why, you know, we tend to lose recruits to Division II institutions as well, financially, you know, because they give partial scholarships or full scholarships depending on the D2 institution. So a lot of times financials have to do with it, and they want the opportunity to play for a scholarship. So that can, you know, definitely have a role. Other students, you know, we have scholarship level athletes that come to Montclair State. I've had them in my women's basketball program. We certainly have them in men's soccer and a few other sports.
Sure.
Where they just are looking for a different experience, where maybe they want to have the opportunity to do different things in college. And, you could be you could be on a roster at Division I level, or you could be an All-American at the Division III level. So.
Now, give us a sense of what Montclair State University is. Where is it in New Jersey? What's the proximity to it from New York?
Sure.
What's the school like as an atmosphere? Give us a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm. We are located in Montclair, New Jersey, which is northern New Jersey. We're about 15 miles outside of New York City. In fact, if you come on our campus, which is absolutely gorgeous, they have done a beautiful job. The entire one side of campus just overlooks New York City. So anywhere you stand on campus, you just see the skyline of New York City. We have 2 train stations on campus, so you can jump on the train and go right to the city if you want to, which also aids in internships and other opportunities for our students. We have a phenomenal School of Business and School of Communication. I mentioned to you before, we have the Red Hawk Sports Network. It's our own little ESPN. And they do a phenomenal job. So there's lots of opportunities like that for our students. And like I said, I think that what they find when they get there is, it's in this great community of Montclair, which is very diverse and artsy and amazing restaurants, but a very urban setting, or a neighborhood setting. But then you have the opportunity to go into the city, and be close by and have all of those kind of experiences as well.
Great. And how many years have you been there?
I'm entering my 17th season as a head coach.
Wow. So a lot different than the $2,000 that started there.
Correct. Thankfully.
So we're coming to the end of our show. And usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are watching? What advice do you want to give them?
I think a couple things. For parents, I would just say, try not to get caught up in the business of college athletics. I think that's really hard. Remember to just support your son or daughter and whatever their dreams are and wishes are, and know that there's more out there. There's a lot of pressure, I think, from AAU to take that D1 scholarship, but know that there's other opportunities and that there's other avenues. And I think when you're choosing a college, what I say to my recruits is, make sure it's a good fit for you, with or without basketball. Make sure you're thinking about what's going to happen in 4 years. And, I think in my program, we do a really good job of supporting our athletes for life. And I do a lot after they graduate with them, helping them get jobs. And I just went to one of my former students' weddings. And, so there's a lot more to it than just the game of basketball.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.